So welcome back to the cabin once again. Today we're talking potbelly stoves. This one in particular was made in Erie, Pennsylvania, right around 1896, designed for burning coal. But today we're going to answer the question, can I burn wood in there successfully? Remember, this is my home. This is not some off-grid camp where I go spend a weekend every once in a while. This is my home. This is where I live every day of the week. I have no homeowner's insurance. So if this place burns down, I lose everything. So, is it safe to burn wood in here? Can I burn it efficiently? Will it heat properly for an entire night, for an entire day? Those are the questions we're going to answer here today. To understand any wood burner, you have to understand what drives it. So the chimney is the motor that drives a wood burner. A wood burner is nothing but a box without the chimney. It is the chimney that is providing the airflow to feed the fire. Okay? So all of that air that is being sucked in there to feed that fire right now is being provided by the chimney in a form of vacuum. Okay? The next thing we have to understand is that you need three things to have a fire. You need heat, oxygen, and fuel. The wood being the fuel, the match being the heat. When we struck that match, that's what provided the initial heat to start this fire. And then progressively we keep heat by keeping a fire burning. So you need fuel, heat, and oxygen. The airflow being the oxygen. Now, on this stove, particularly a potbelly stove or a parlor stove in this case, we have different locations for air to come into the fire. We have airflow under the fire in the form of these vents down in the grate, which is very important for coal burning. You have to have air flowing underneath and through coal in order to get it to burn. If you do not, it will not burn. And then you have air coming in the door. This air would have been coming above the fire. So if you close the bottom and open the top, you could bank your stove better by getting the air to flow in the door, up the chimney. You get less leakage in the bottom. Secondly, a flue damper. On every non-airtight stove, potbelly stove, parlor stove, a stove that might have cracks here and there, you have to have a damper to control the motor. So this is your governor for your motor. You have to have a damper to control that draft, especially if you have a chimney that drafts really well. This chimney is straight. From here, it's 20-some feet to the ceiling, and then I've got several feet above the roof. So let's just say this chimney is 25 feet tall and it's straight. This is a Ferrari of a chimney because it draws really hard. You can notice as I open the door that it really starts to suck air into the fire. Now the bigger I go, the less that effect because it's sucking it in through that whole area. It's time to get a little bit bigger log in there, but I don't want to go too big yet, just for example. So it's also very important to understand that there's different kinds of wood. The harder the wood, black locust, the harder the wood, the bigger the piece, the slower it's going to burn. the softer the wood, like I put in there now, the softer the wood, pine, the more surface area, the faster it's going to burn. So by filling that thing full of kindling wood, in a sense, pine, dry, small pieces, it will burn up rapidly, produce a bunch of heat really quick. So this is maple. It's medium small piece. It'll burn up a lot of surface area. It'll burn up kind of quick, produce a lot of heat, but will also burn for a couple hours as well. So if we don't hurry up, we're going to lose it because all that small stuff is starting to burn out. Now, at this point, I only have two forms of control. The heat that we struck the match, that is, we're trying to control it, but we have the least amount of control of it unless we can control the other two things. And that is the fuel, like I said, different size pieces of wood, different moisture content in that wood. The biggest control we have is the airflow. So, this stove, if you open up the bottom, there's a shaker grate in here. Right now, there is a good bed of ash in there that has got this pretty plugged up. I'm trying to get where you can hear it too. If I shake down some ashes until I expose a couple openings, that was all it took. I can see the glowing starting to come through here. That means it is now sucking air through the bottom, up through that wood, up through the ember pile, just like a blacksmith. Can you hear it? Just like a blacksmith blowing air on the fire. The chimney, my motor, is feeding this belly. In a sense, this is a rocket stove. This is your original rocket stove. But you got to be able to control that rocket. So now, because I have so much air going through here, it is sucking. It's going to burn out of control. It's going to burn too hot if I don't hurry up and get this closed up. So close this. Now I can control how much air comes through this. Now remember, in my last video, I restored this stove. So when I did, I sealed up all of the joints real good with a high temperature mortar, refractory mortar, so that it isn't sucking air in places that I can't control. I think with a lot of the YouTube videos, when they talk about these things burning out of control, remember it's 100 and some years old, and if it hasn't been tore down, if it hasn't been properly cared for or restored to stop that air from flowing into places it doesn't belong, well, of course it's going to run out of control, and especially if you don't have a damper. So at this point, I've got good control. I can crack a couple more. I can now hear it burning even hotter. Now, remember, this is my everyday home. I'm not trying to deceive you in any way, shape, or form. I do have electric here. I also have a 100-year-old fan on the wall that I blow on this thing all the time. And that fan helps get the heat off of this as quick as possible. The key to these things is a lot of surface area. This piece here and all of the different nooks and crannies, that's all surface area. All of the decor on the outside, that's all surface area. All of this cast iron, that's all mass and surface area. So I've got a fire burning like that, and most people's complaint is you can't control the fire. So there, I mean, it's burning pretty good. But because there's so much surface area, here to absorb that heat, I can actually put my hand. You know, it is warm to the touch, and I wouldn't dare lay my hand on there constantly, but I can touch that. It's not that hot. Ooh, how much is that archie at the window? By the way, single pane windows. I don't mind a draft. I think that homes that are too airtight are not healthy. I mean, in today's day and age, because we are paying for gas to heat our homes, because we're paying for fuel or electric and it's so expensive, we tend to put more money into our windows and our doors, and we try to seal everything up. I love to feel a breeze come through the windows when it's really windy. I love to see the curtains move. I'm okay with going out and being frigid cold and coming home to a house that's not ideally the perfect temperature for a human being. I love it. I don't mind getting up to a 60-degree house and having to build a fire. I think that's all part of living in an authentic 1800 style log cabin, is understanding that it doesn't have to be perfectly warm every day, all day. That's part of the, I'll call it, romance behind it. I mean, it is nice to get up and just build a fire. Anyway, let's get back to this thing and let's see how it's doing now. And remember, our control is in our airflow, and then our control is in the fuel we put in it. So how much wood can I put in there? Let's take another look. I think I have one wanting to go back out now. Going out? Come on, you go out. Anyway, the house, as you can see on the wall, I don't know if you can see it very well or not, it is right now 80 degrees back there. It was probably, this cabin, believe it or not, holds the heat very well. There is so much stone in here, especially with the big stone fireplace behind you. There is so much stone in here that stone acts like a battery. It absorbs energy. It absorbs the heat. So as I'm building a fire in here during the day, all day, the heat is being absorbed into the logs, the mass of the logs. The heat is being absorbed into that big stone fireplace chimney that is not burning right now. The heat's all coming from here. It's all coming from the heat that's produced here, but it's being absorbed into everything. Different material can release energy back at a different rate. Stone absorbs slowly and then releases slowly. So as the day goes, that stone, or as the night goes, that stone continuously releases that heat back into the room. And with me sleeping up in the loft right beside that stone chimney, it stays really nice up there all night, even if this goes out. But I'll tell you, typically I wake up to just a little bit of an ember pile sitting in the bottom of this. I've really got it to the point now. That's with burning all wood, no coal. I've only burned a couple pieces of coal so far this year, and I won't burn very much. I did have a friend drop me off 4 or 5 buckets of coal to have in case it got really cold. But I'll burn primarily wood in this for the entire season. So I've been talking for a while. Let's check it out and just see what we got. Let's just shut that off just so you can hear me good. There. I mean, we got a nice, calm fire. I will not fill this thing all the way up. The most wood I ever put in it, I've got a firebox from here down. So I've got fire brick, cast iron lined. I'm going to close that one because it's smoking in the room just a little bit. So from here down, I have fire brick, cast iron. Most of my mass is down there. So what I'll do in the evening before I go to bed is fill it up to the top of the firebox and put one big log on top of it so that as it burns down, that big log sinks down into the firebox at night. So now, at this point, how I would fill this thing, black locust, relatively small piece, but dense, so it'll burn a little bit slower. Okay, let's see, another piece of black locust. Now, this is a piece of oak that had been down for a while, but I just split it the other day, and it's very wet. Not considered seasoned at all. So if I put this piece in there, the locust will dry it, but this will burn the longest. And then I might even, I've got enough room in there, we could even put another one on top of that if I wanted to. And there's some pine in the mix. I would not put pine in there now. Okay, so that's about all I would do in there for now. Okay? I'm gonna leave the cameras running, I'm gonna go ahead and close it up. And then we'll check back here shortly. Okay, pine. When I would use pine is when I want very quick heat. Listen, that's my pipes starting to get hot. Everything is starting to creak. Now remember, I got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 feet of, there's 10 feet of black pipe here. This is open. So hearing that ticking, I know it's starting to get warm. Not too warm though. I'm going to close this window now that he did not jump back up. So let's take a peek, see what we got. It's starting to burn pretty good. Now, again, can I control that? Can I control that and not let my house get too hot? That seems to be everybody's complaint, is that these things are strictly designed to burn coal and not wood, and they'll run out of control if you're not careful. Let's back up. I don't think we gave our ancestors enough credit. You know, we are more intelligent today with technology, but on survival, our ancestors got us, hands down. So now remember, there is a place to feed this on the top as well. There's 2 different ways. You can slide that over, and here we have a hole that you could drop. Remember, this is the late 1800s, and the first chainsaw didn't come out until like 1930s, 1940s. So everything that went in here had to be hand cut if it was wood. So this would have allowed for a much larger, stick to go in there. This would have allowed for coal to be put in from the top, but you would have never put more coal in there than what it would have taken to fill to the door. So chances are that they did not use that much. It was more for a door for cooking, because if you take this off, then you get a direct surface to the fire. Okay. This also just picks off of there. So you can put that aside in order to cook on there. Okay, now, it's getting warm over here now. So, what I would do, burning wood, is I would damper this back a little bit. You can hear it ticking again, that's it cooling back down. I would close the bottom ones. I do not need airflow coming from the bottom up. And I would close this most of the way. Okay. And now I'm going to turn my fan on. And now, I'm going to figure out where I put my coffee. And I'm going to sit and drink some coffee. What is the efficiency of a potbelly stove like this burning wood? You know, I've been a chimney sweep most of my life, and I would say most of my life I would have said that they're not efficient because you lose too much heat up the chimney. I had an old timer once ask me, why do we have chimney fires now and we never did in the past? And this was back probably in the 90s. And boy, that question had stuck with me for a lot of years. And that is because a stove like this burns the wood completely. All of the gases that are released in the form of smoke down here, by the time it gets here or up a little higher, is gone. It's all completely burned up. So if you was to go outside right now and look at the smoke coming out of the chimney, you won't see any. It is just fumes or steam coming out the top of the chimney. There is no smoke coming out the top of this chimney. And there's no smoke coming out the top of the chimney because it's burning all of the smoke. So if it's burning all of the smoke, it's turning the smoke into heat as well. So I would beg to say that this thing actually burns a piece of wood so much more efficiently than anything we've had for years, up until about now. We're starting to develop furnaces and things now, wood furnaces, that have a secondary combustion chamber, that get hotter, that burn the smoke cleaner. However, I know of those things that are three years old, and they're about shot, they're about burn out. I just restored this last week, and it was over 120 years old, and had been used for most of that. This thing was being used in a cabin in Pennsylvania before it was given to me, and the only thing I had to do to it was replace the barrel going around the back. So these things burned more efficiently. They burned wood more efficiently than modern day furnaces did, primarily because it burnt up all of the energy that's in the wood versus putting so much out the top of the chimney as smoke. I think today too many people focus on how long a fire will burn. Maximum burn on this thing, depending on the kind of wood that I put in there. And you've seen how far I filled it. I mean, a couple of logs are hanging halfway up, but for the most part, most of my wood's down there. I would guarantee you that what I have in there right now would last me probably 5 or 6 hours, probably. I just shut all the air back and I closed that damper as far as I could get it. It's been about 45 minutes. So let's open it up and see what we've got. It is now very much under control with the amount of draft I have, with the amount of heat that's in there. The house is at a really nice temperature. It's not too hot, it's not too cold. It's right there in the middle. The thermometer on the wall says 90, but remember that's because it's so close to the stove. Temperature-wise on the pipes, remember I got the fan blowing on there though. I can touch the pipes. They are hot. I cannot hold my hand on there, but I can touch them. Same with the top of the stove. I could get really close. It is hot, but it won't burn me. Sides of the stove, I'm not gonna try it. It's probably hot. But anyway, let's open it up, see how it's burning. Remember, as soon as I open it, it's going to kindle and take off. That'll at least give us an idea of how slow it's actually burning. Here we go. I'm going to open up the draft first. This is the flue damper. It's got the chimney throttled back as far as I can throttle it so that it doesn't burn out of control. This is your best control device on this. If you have an old stove that has a crack here and there, this is the only way to stop it. If you don't put one of these in there, they will run out of control. So open it up. There. It's burning nice and slow. Everything is burning slow. That is almost 1 hour, 45 minutes to an hour since we put that wood in there. So it will, like I said, it will start to burn hotter and hotter now because I'm giving it oxygen through the front. But as you can see, that is very much a controlled burn. It is not burning out of control. That top knob gets a lot hotter than the bottom one because this one's out on the outside edge. Okay, let's talk about some of the important things that have to do with the chimney itself. Remember, the chimney is your motor. It is the driving force behind feeding this thing. A chimney that is straight, just like this one, is by far going to perform the best. A chimney that goes directly out of the top of a stove, directly up. Heat wants to rise. Heat doesn't like to go around corners and go around. And so if you go out the wall with this thing, you've already added 190, 290s. Every 90-degree elbow takes approximately 10 feet of performance off of the chimney. So we've already said that we are, let's just say 25 feet tall total. Now that goes from the floor up. If I was to go out the wall and then go up again, that's 290s. That takes 20 feet of performance off of this thing. I'm operating on a performance of 5 or 7 feet of chimney. By going from the floor all the way straight up, you get the best performance. Okay. Never, and I repeat, never decrease the size of the collar on the stove to the chimney. This happens to be a 7-inch flue pipe. So you can never decrease the size. You do not put a 6-inch chimney on this. You'll have such less draft because you decrease the size of that flue. You can increase, and I did, at the roof. When this changes over from single wall black pipe to double wall stainless steel pipe at the rafters, it goes up to 8-inch. You can never increase more than double. You should never increase that far because when you increase the size of the flue, you decrease the temperature. Temperature is what stops you from getting creosote. Once the moisture is in there, trying to keep it hot all the way up out the top, that's how you reduce the amount of creosote you get in your chimney, is by complete combustion and temperature in the flue. Temperature in the flue also increases draft. Draft is the difference between outside temperature and flue temperature. So if it's, let's just say it's 40 degrees today outside, and my flue temperature is probably 300 or 400 degrees right now, that's my draft. My draft is the difference between those two temperatures. If it was 90 degrees outside, first off, I don't know why you'd want to build a fire, but if you tried to build a fire on a 90-degree day, you have to get the flue temperature so much higher to get a decent draft because It's the difference between outside temperature and temperature inside the home. On a cold day, your draft is increased in the chimney. The critters all love the heat as well. The whole purpose for this video is to show the control. And I know that you can't see the fire right now, but if every time I open it up to show you the fire, you introduce more oxygen, which then turns into more heat. So by keeping it closed up right now, it will burn as cold as you can possibly get it to burn. And within, it's probably been an hour and a half now since I put wood in it, and most of those logs are probably still in there. Remember, those are good hardwood logs, and they'll be in there if and I do leave the home and leave this thing burning. I make sure that it's under control. I don't light a fire and leave in 10 minutes. I'll light a fire when I first get up. I'll sit and have my coffee here by it. I will get that thing under control, get it full of wood. It's under control now. If I was to pack up and leave now, go visit my mom, go to the store, I am 100% positive this thing will burn properly. I see you. I am 100% positive this thing will burn properly and will burn for an extended period of time, producing heat. It's not all about you. She says, yes, it is. Yes, I'm the princess. I'm the princess. Huh. It is all about you, isn't it? And there's a few people that don't think you're loved. Poor girl. She isn't loved. No one loves her. We're just kidding. You are so loved. So loved. She's my girl. She goes everywhere with me. And if you know Goldens or Labs, they're not a creature of a lot of heat. I mean, they can tolerate a little bit. And as they get older, they like it. But for her to be laying that close to it, it's not terribly hot. But my thermostat on my wall back there is still at 90. It'll probably hold there for the next 3 or 4 or 5 hours. And that is indeed radiant heat. There's a fan blowing on here, blowing the heat away from the unit. That is heat that's being just transferred through the air over to that thermometer. A log cabin lifestyle. That's what I call my channel, a log cabin lifestyle. When I was building this, it was so important to me to keep it authentic and real. Keep it authentic and real. I literally want people, when they come in here, to feel like they stepped back in time, but have a few of the luxuries. Like, I have electric lights. I do have a lot of gas lights. We have fun game nights where we shut all the power off, and we only do the oil lamps. The angle lamps, I have a bunch of them. We'll light the angle lamps. We'll give everybody candles, and we'll play murder mysteries in front of the fireplace. And one of those is coming up soon. My daughter and I were just talking about it this morning. But it was so important for me to keep it authentic, to make it feel authentic. But yet, it is home. It is. I need to be able to come in and be comfortable. I don't care how cold it is. I can keep the temperature in here cozy and comfortable. Whether it's sitting by the potbelly stove or over by the fireplace or just taking a nap on the couch. I mean, it is comfortable in here. And here I have a box that I can go out and break up some sticks and just drop in the top of it and produce heat to heat my home. I mean, I can sit here and drink my coffee in peace by the fire and just be comfortable. let's check it out, see what it looks like temperature-wise. Hot, but not. I could not lay my hand on that, but I could get really close. I can touch it without getting burned. The pipes, on the other hand, I can actually touch them pretty good. I could not leave my hand on them. So they're still very hot, which is good. That increases draft. That reduces the amount of creosote in the chimney by keeping good flue temperature. Because the stack is so tall, it's all a heat exchanger. Remember, this whole thing is one great big heat exchanger. So with all the surface area, heat is being released into the cabin. But the biggest question is, can I control it? Can I make it burn at a temperature that would allow me to heat the house without burning it down? Several hours now, that wood has been in there. And let's open up the damper first so that we let the smoke go out. Open the bottom door. And then open the top. We are still very similar to what we had. I could theoretically, my next step would be to knock this one down into there. And that's the reason for stone. Knock that down, and now what I'll do is go out and get a couple logs that are pretty wet. So logs I just split, they were down for over a year, but I just split them the other day. They are very wet on the inside. And I'll put a couple of those on the top. Another way to control how hot this thing burns is with the moisture content in the wood. Because I now have it established with a really bunch of embers down in that firebox, if I keep stacking really dry wood on top of there, I'm going to wind up with something that's way hotter than I want. So let's get a couple of those. Okay. Of course you can't see it, but those logs are pretty damp. Less heat, bigger log. Opposite of what you might think. Small logs burn up too quickly, producing too much heat too rapidly. So less heat, bigger log. That one in there first. Matter of fact, we're only going to put one in for now. I'm home all day. I'm home all day, I don't need to load it up. Unless I go visit my mom, and I will. This one's always there. There we go. And as you can see, we have total control. This thing is not running out of control. It is par on. That actually should, putting that log in there will decrease the temperature of this fire for a while, because there's moisture content in there. As it tries to evaporate out the moisture, that moisture will get inside here and reduce the temperature, but it will not reduce it enough to give me creosote. Okay, this is where I'm going to leave you. If it was bedtime and the fire was just as it is right now, I could easily go to bed and there would still be a little bit of embers in the bottom of the stove. The stove would probably be cold when I got up tomorrow morning, and I would have to start all over again and build another fire. The little container that I used at the very beginning is sawdust from my planer that I've mixed with candle wax. Just a little pinch of that in a flame and a little bit of kindling wood from just random projects I've had around here. Nothing special. And I could have this thing back up to temperature in 10 minutes. Because of the thermal mass in here, not necessarily inside the stove itself, because of the thermal mass of this entire structure, it holds temperature. This thing could be out for 8 or 9 hours, and yet my home would not decrease to an uncomfortable temperature because of that thermal mass in here. Single pane windows. The most I might do if the temperature drops far below zero is throw a blanket over these windows. In the summertime, this is my west wall, and I cover these windows with blankets in the summer to block out that western sun. When the sun gets far to the west here, it produces so much heat coming in these windows that I will cover these and leave them covered for the entire summer, including the one all the way up in the top. The ones under the front porch I don't need to cover. I leave those ones open. But for the most part, this place stays comfortable. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and don't be so afraid of a potbelly stove or old technology. As long as it's restored back to the condition that it was when it was new, I definitely think that my ancestors didn't only burn coal in here, but they pretty much burnt anything they had to stay warm. Take care, and God bless.